So far for 2026, I feel like EVs have been taking a beating, okay? I feel like some of the most notable EV models have been canceled. Some automakers are canceling their EV plans entirely. But on the flip side, this past week in April as a whole, we've gotten announcements for production of some of the biggest, most anticipated EV models, unveilings, as well as some hints of future EV models coming. And in this video, we're going to talk about pretty much all that has happened this past week, starting off with Rivian and the Rivian R2. Now, last week, on the weekend, or like that Friday night, a tornado hit Rivian's factory, the R2 General Assembly. There were pictures. There's a giant gaping hole in the factory. It looked like there was flooding. It was very concerning, and people were like, well, is the R2 now going to be delayed, canceled for a little bit, or it's going to be a while until we actually see Rivian producing units that will be sellable and go to people like you and I? But RJ and Rivian said, no tornado stopping us. And they actually started production of the sellable R2 units. And for some time now, we've actually seen some VIND R2s, whether these be engineering test units or going to hire up C-suite executives, the biggest employees. But now we're getting sellable R2 units, which we're expecting to go to more general employees and then to customers like you and I. Will then be able to get our hands on a Rivian R2. It was also said that the R2 configurator for those earliest reservation holders will be opened in June. And so you will configure it, be able to order, and we are closer and closer and closer to just normal people getting their Rivian R2s. And that is very exciting. People have been spotting them on the road, left and right, all with VINs. That is very exciting. Kind of on the same realm of Rivian R2, the EX60 from Volvo, which is being manufactured in Sweden, has now started production as well. And Volvo has said that the anticipation and the amount of noise that they've gotten from the EX60 has made them want to increase production of the EX60. Apparently, they're going to lengthen the amount of time they're producing it over the summer. Typically, I guess they take a break or something, but the EX60 also went into production. And again, that is one of the bigger models that has a lot of anticipation that a lot of people want. Particularly, they've said in Asian and European markets, the EX60 has seen a lot of hype. And so it entering production means eventually it's going to come over here to the United States. They're also going to be starting deliveries for the European markets this summer as well. But again, the EX60, just like the R2 or the iX3 or the GLC from Mercedes, these are all really hyped and well anticipated. And 400 miles of range, 400 kilowatt charging, new Volvo software. We are excited for the EX60, and it has started production. Moving on to the Hyundai Motor Group, Kia and the EV3 have started pre-production in Mexico. And that is an EV that we are definitely getting in the United States. And that is really, really exciting. Now, this is one of those, like the Bolt, like the Leaf, like the Equinox, that is cheap. It's one of the entry-level models that's going to be for Kia, and this is expected to start at around $35,000, which I think we need a lot more. Okay, it's cool that we get the R2 and the EX60 and the GLC and the iX3, but those are all expensive, touching $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. It is great when we see an EV with a complete package that starts on the lower end of things. Not everyone has $50,000 to spend on an SUV. And so the fact that we're getting more choice in the cheaper range category for cars is a good thing. It's a good sign that things are improving. Moving on, Hyundai Global has unveiled a new EV, which I'll just tell you now, not coming to the United States, at least what we know so far, which is pretty disappointing. There are so many cool EVs from the Hyundai Kia Genesis group that we don't get here in the United States. And this is the IONIQ 3, starting off with a 40 kilowatt hour battery up to 200 miles of range, 60 kilowatt hour battery up to 280 miles of range. It's a 400 volt, smaller, cheaper, entry level EV. And it looks really cool, especially in this N configuration, which is Hyundai's sporty, trim. And yeah, we're not getting it. But as of right now, we just have the IONIQ 5, the EV6. Of course, the IONIQ 6 left us as well. We have the IONIQ 9. We also have the EV9 as well. But I would like to see Hyundai bring some of those other EVs globally into the United States. That would be a great thing to see. Also, the IONIQ Venus or IONIQ V. So the IONIQ Venus, this concept was a car that we actually saw like a month ago that was unveiled. And then Hyundai in China unveiled what they call the IONIQ V. And it looks really weird. It has the same kind of gold colors we see on the Tesla Cybercab, maybe a little bit darker, but kind of same matte going on there. And it looks like a doorstop, like a wedge, just a giant cube. I imagine the drag coefficient will be pretty good, but that is a Chinese only vehicle. Another example of something nice and cool that Hyundai Motor Group is doing that we're not getting over in the United States, and I'm pretty jealous.
And here it is, the Hyundai IONIQ V. Yep, that's ugly.
Moving on, an EV that we technically already have, but now we're getting a different variant of the Porsche Cayenne Coupé, or Coupe. Now, this is like a sloped roof back version of the typical Cayenne, and Porsche has been doing this for a decade, years at this point. So it was expected to be coming essentially the same as the regular Cayenne version. Looking at the specs, it's a little bit more efficient, but same charging. It's the same body underneath, but it has a sloping back, which I guess makes it a little bit more stylish. I would say I prefer the regular SUV version, but we technically get a new Porsche EV. Moving on, this is actually from a couple weeks ago. Subaru unveiled a new EV, their Subaru Getaway. Interesting names. We currently have the Subaru Uncharted, the Solterra, the Trail Seeker, and now the Getaway. Interesting name, Subaru Getaway. That's what I feel like that is. Anyway, this is using the same platform as Toyota with their Highlander EV, and this is something that Subaru has been doing forever. The BZ4X, or the BZ now, is the same as the Solterra. The Uncharted is the same as the CHR. The Trail Seeker is the same as the BZ Woodland, and now the Getaway is the same as the Highlander. Even Lexus is going to be using the same platform for a future three-row EV SUV. And so, I mean, Toyota does this, and it'll be interesting to see how this ends up playing out. The BZ actually sells considerably well. Same thing for the Solterra. So we'll see as Toyota, Subaru, Lexus make more EVs, how this reflects on the market. But yeah, Toyota, Subaru, Lexus already do a lot of sharing platforms for their internal combustion engine vehicles, particularly Toyota, Lexus. And so doing the same thing for your EVs, I guess, just makes sense. Of course, with the Lexus version, we're expecting maybe a better tuned suspension, maybe some other fine tuning that just makes it a more luxurious vehicle, because sharing the same platform for every single vehicle, I would not be surprised if the all-wheel drive version of the Toyota Highlander and the all-wheel drive version of, Subaru, of the Getaway are pretty much identical in driving feel. And that's not what you want, I think people like when things drive a little bit different. They're not just buying it for a badge. You're driving for a little bit of a different experience. But the three-row Subaru Getaway, and we are getting a three-row Lexus EV SUV expected on the exact same platform. Going on to the Tesla side, the Cybercab also started production this week, which I've already made a video about and that you can watch on our channel. The Tesla Model YL has been spotted testing in the United States, which probably tells us the YL is coming. Tesla did cancel the Model X. That's no longer in production. And so to keep up with the market's needs of a large SUV, we got the Model YL, the long version of the Tesla Model Y. And so that's good. We're seeing it be introduced in a ton of other markets. I believe it was just introduced in like Korea and India. And so now it being spotted on US roads probably tells us that it is getting closer and closer and closer. Two EVs that I've realized I've forgotten to talk about, the BMW i7 as well as the Mercedes C-Class. Now, the BMW i7, including the 7 Series as a whole, has now been upgraded to the Neue Klasse, or the new class of Mercedes. Now, ironically, Neue Klasse is an iteration of an old class of Mercedes called Neue Klasse. Anyway, we are now getting the same diagonal screens, interior changes, and some of the iterations and grille style changes that we see in the i3 and the iX3 now brought over to the 7 Series. Mercedes has said that all of their BMW models will be Neue Klasse. And so it's going to be interesting to see how the entire BMW lineup, particularly the electric models, end up looking with the Neue Klasse styling. Gotta say, I like the BMW Neue Klasse styling. I think the iX3 is a little weird, but on the i3, it looks stunning, especially the pictures that we've seen on the BMW i3M. I think that looks amazing. I think, look, Neue Klasse, good to me. I know people are kind of weird about it, which also brings me over to the Mercedes C-Class, which we already have the Mercedes GLC. We got the new EQS, which we've talked about in a recent video. We also have the CLA. And Mercedes is starting to bring all of their EVs to their new platform, this 800-volt high voltage architecture. And they're also doing this now with their new C-Class, so the electric version of the C-Class. Now the C-Class will continue to produce the internal combustion engine version, but this is the electric version, and it's very polarizing to most people. I think most people think the styling is ugly. I disagree. I actually think the styling is pretty good. I know the back end can be a little weird. Yeah, that is a new EV that is expected to come to the United States and will be a direct competitor to the BMW i3. But it's weird because we also have the CLA. So it'll be interesting to see how the CLA, the 3 Series from BMW, and the Mercedes C-Class EV all kind of clash, particularly the C-Class and the CLA, because I feel like when automakers start to have multiple EV models, especially this early on in European and American markets, when you have multiple versions of what is essentially the same vehicle, they don't tend to do that well. They tend to dilute the product and get in the way of each other and their market share. And so I could see this really being a battle between the C-Class and the CLA. What do you guys think of the CLA design, the C-Class design, and do you think the C-Class and the CLA will have a hard time competing with each other? Which one did you guys pick? But that is pretty much it when it comes to some of the biggest EV news stories when it comes to production and unveilings of this past weekend. So, and it's great to see that the United States is still getting some love when it comes to EVs, particularly EVs on the cheaper side. On the opposite of the cheaper side, I believe the Ferrari Luce is also going to be unveiled very soon, but that's supposed to start like $650,000. So probably not something that either you or I need to be worrying about. I'm sure someone out there, someone watching, will be buying the Ferrari Luce, and whoever you are, congratulations. But thank you guys so much for watching. It is great. EV3, EX60, Rivian R2. I think those are pretty much the big ones. My name's Isaiah, and I will see you guys in the next one.